So it's interesting. So I've been in environments where it's kind of noisy, and we sit a little bit further away. And if I'm with some guys, and then if we call out, just as an experiment, the sitting group of women over there, and then it's like, "Hello, how are you?" Nobody pays attention. And then if I do, "Hi, you in the blonde hair there," and then
Right, so we've got me in the British pub and you in the beautiful LA home. I swear to God, every single person that I interview, they have a better backdrop than me, and the backdrops keep getting better. It's
I
shameful
think
for
your
myself.
backdrop is cool.
It's got to improve. It's got to improve. I just don't
Nice.
think I'm going to be here longer than 6 months to a year. So I don't really want to spend, thousands and thousands, and then it turns out I'm just moving anyway, and somebody else is
Right.
going to benefit.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so in short, thank you for coming on. Really appreciate your time, honestly. And I know it's early in the morning there as well, so thank you so much. I think it would be
You're welcome.
great to start with kind of outlining the work that you do, because I think a lot of people will be thinking, as we said at the start, it's very tonality based or body language based, the way that I kind of do it. But I know your work is very broad in the spectrum of the voice. If you could just explain that, that would be fantastic.
Okay, sure. I'm glad to be on here. So many people know me as a voice and performance coach, and that has to do then with developing the voice. Sometimes people have voice problems also. So I work with singers and speakers, and really we're all singers and speakers, aren't we? We all have this amazing instrument that we call the voice, but it's amazing how we can improve it. And then that ties into actually freeing ourselves, releasing our inner voice, if you will, so that we become more, better at communicating, better at creating bonds with people. We become more influential. And then I also, part of what I do then is also how we can actually perform at high levels under pressure, the peak performance skills, and then the entrepreneurial skills, how to use our voice to our benefit. So, yeah, we'll talk about some amazing, fascinating things about this instrument that we call the voice.
It's something that I really want to improve personally. I think my voice is okay, and I'm talking quite a lot on a daily basis, but I find that in a lot of your videos you spoke about how you should be able to talk for hours, and you shouldn't be getting pain around here. And after I've spoken for about 2-3 hours, my voice gets very gravelly.
Hmm.
And occasionally, on certain occasions, I've actually, not aggressively, but maybe I've gone to the toilet and I've just spat up blood. And I think I
Uh-oh.
kind of talk gravelly here, and I cause a lot of damage to my throat region, which occasionally, very occasionally, causes it to slightly drop, which is completely different to my normal voice. So it might just drop. And I'm 28, so I know it's not puberty or anything like that, and my voice is
Yeah.
naturally fairly deep. So if it does kick up slightly, it's always after like 3 hours of talking for ages and ages. So I
Yeah.
know I'm doing something wrong. So I really wanted to get you on to talk about that.
Well, the blood thing is not good. So,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
well,
naturally.
yeah, the health of the voice is number one, and then we want to be able to do whatever it is that we do to our maximum capacity. So, the fact that you are interested in developing your voice is smart, and a lot of people aren't even aware that they can develop it. But you're into fitness, you know that you can develop your body. Most people know that. So it's interesting that most people do not know that
Yeah,
they can develop the voice. So if we, for example, need to have our voice for 3 hours or 6 hours, whatever, then there are strategies to develop that. Same thing as, someone who's never been out running, you go out and run, you're going to be tired after 15 minutes, right? While someone who's conditioned to do it can do it for a long time. But I train. So when I speak for 6 hours straight on the stage, or now when I'm doing a virtual event, then I prepare for it. I train.
see,
It's
that
important.
fascinates me. That fascinates me. So I imagine you're training in a similar way to how a bodybuilder would train their body, because again, like you said, it's a muscle. It's something that you can use. So you weren't really born with this voice, or you didn't really develop the voice that you have now, because it's one hell of a voice. It's something that resonates. It's somebody that you can really listen to. So
Really?
yeah, how
Well,
did that
thank you.
happen?
So have I always had? No. I was very, very self-conscious. So when I was in my teens, I mean, even late teens, I I've always been quite extroverted. I mean, introverted. I mean,
Yeah.
when people see me on stage, they think I'm so extroverted, I'm so charming, I'm so charismatic. Really, when I'm no, that's not. It has nothing to do with being extroverted. So, if you're watching, listening to this, and you feel that you're introverted, that can be a great benefit. Actually, just have to use it. But yeah, so I was very uncomfortable speaking in front of a classroom. Forget about it. And I wasn't comfortable about my voice either. So I started singing when I was like 17. I had played instruments before. I played the violin. I didn't think the violin was cool enough. I wanted to play in a rock band. So the transition from violin to bass was pretty easy. So then I wanted to start singing, and then I got a sore throat all the time. And I probably sounded like that proverbial strangled cat. So
That's
I
me, I
wanted to
think.
learn. Yeah, well, but I had no clue, right? I had the musicality, but that doesn't mean we have a voice. So I figured, it'd be interesting to learn about this instrument. So I started training. And part of it is also had to do with the confidence issues to be able to get up on stage and maybe get attention from a girl.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not a secret that that's many times why we want to get up on stage. And we can talk about that because it's a fascinating thing that it actually has an impact. It actually works in that sense. Why is that? But um, but then I started training my voice. But as far as the speaking voice, I was never comfortable with that, even though I sang. Even when I was coaching, because I was coaching singers. So I've been coaching singers. I'm from Sweden originally. My dad's from England, actually.
Yep.
And then, so I came to LA, but I've been in LA now 20 years. And I, um, I was working with singers and speakers. But it's interesting that you say that because I never thought of it as myself having a good voice. So it was when I decided I was going to go up on stage and speak more that I realized, I got to be a role model for this thing about the speaking voice. So yeah, so I've trained a lot, and it's interesting when I coach other people, when they develop the voice, they become better in any endeavor, whether they are lawyers or teachers, whatever it might be.
I found that actually every artist, every music artist has a great speaking voice. So obviously they're great at singing, but when you see an interview with them, the way they
Sometimes, not
speak,
always.
not all, give me some examples.
Well, I won't say names, but sometimes, as a matter of fact, sometimes singers actually get into trouble by the way how they speak. So they
Okay.
do a lot of interviews and stuff like that, and then they talk with a lot of restrictions, and then it becomes freer when they sing, and then there's like a lot of tension when they
Yeah.
speak. It's like, wait a minute, we got to work on your speaking voice because if you're singing a gig for 90 minutes, 2 hours, whatever, and then you're speaking for 3 hours with tension, that's not a good idea. It's like you're an athlete and you sit with a lot of tension, and then that's going to mess up your athletic performance.
It's true with bodybuilders as well. They're told to relax as much as possible. And
Hmm.
marijuana is actually something that most bodybuilders are now using in order to, they're actually smoking it before gym sessions to loosen their muscles up to prevent injuries and inflammation. It's fascinating
Gotcha.
stuff, yeah.
All right. I won't recommend that for your voice.
um,
Uh, uh,
so what
yeah.
kind of what kind of exercises can you do then to kind of let's lead off the relaxation. What can you do to relax the voice and the vocal cords?
Well, so you mentioned vocal cords. So we have these vocal cords inside inside of the larynx, voice box, vocal cords, sometimes also known as vocal folds. And how many do we have? We have two of them, right? So
I don't know.
I know this is so interesting
This is
because
why you're here.
most people don't know. They know I have two legs. Yes, good one. Yeah, but even to move the legs, there are a lot of muscles involved, right?
Hmm.
So if but we have two of these vocal cords or vocal folds inside of here, and when we breathe, they're open. They're apart from each other. But when we make sound, they come together. So which is magical. Really, but you've always been able to do it from day one, and which is part of the problem because people take it for granted. Unless they lose their voice, then suddenly we maybe shouldn't take it for granted. Maybe you
Mm-hmm.
be helpful to learn about it. But we can't see them, right? So we have to get good at feeling them. But there are muscles, of course, that move stuff in our body. So if I do ah, there's a difference. There's a difference muscle activity. The question is, what muscle is that? And most of the time, if I have someone do that, then go breathy, and then go make sound. There's a lot more muscle involved in that action than should. We want to develop muscle isolation skills so that you move muscles effectively. So think of it as an athlete. When you want to, an athlete can move muscles individually, independently of each other, very much, right? So, and an instrumentalist also. So I mentioned I played instruments, right? So if I want to move fingers, if you play guitar, for example, and you play a bar chord, you're going to get tension here when you're a beginner. You get tension all over the place,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So much tension. Or you go to the gym, you can do bicep curls, and the shoulders and your back and your face, everything, right? But your face has nothing whatsoever to do with your bicep. But that's what tends to happen. We engage so much extra effort that's actually not the muscle. So athletes know this. So the people you see in the gym who have done good form, because they can move that specific part of the body with keeping something else out of the way. And we want to be able to do the same thing. Of course, it takes a little bit of training, but that's ideally what we want then. So then the vocal cords can vibrate with less effort. So that makes it then, well, you don't get tired so fast.
More efficient.
Efficient, exactly. But part of it is also muscle strength, right? So when we go
Yeah.
to the gym, we are actually developing strength of muscles. So we want to have these muscles strong, but then again, which muscle do we want strong? All the compensatory muscles or the actual muscle that we want to work out? But you're right. Most people, I mean, we're not aware of it. We don't think about it unless we lose our voice. That's the time then we really need to fix it. But if you get tired, for example, I can tell you right now that the reason is because your voice is a little bit leaky. So when it's like, if I talk like this, then it's super leaky, right? But if we have a little bit of leakiness, then that makes us more tired. So we want to get the vocal cords to be stronger. And it's amazing how that feels. And also the response you get. But you have a cool voice, have a little bit of breath in this it's cool also. It gives you a little huskiness.
It's the British accent.
Well, accent is, yeah.
If I was from somewhere like Canada where the tonality is a little bit squeakier, I think I'd be in serious trouble.
Well, then we get into more melody and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's say if you were training me and you were saying, okay, I want to strengthen your voice so that you can do 10 back-to-back podcasts that are half an hour each. You can do a body language analysis for an hour, and then you can get on stage and you can speak for 2-3 hours, and there's going to be no blood. It's going to be very resonant. You're not going to be, because I feel as though when I speak, I'm forcing it out, which I don't know whether is a good thing. Back in the day, I used to watch, go ahead.
Well, it's not a good thing, but it's good that you are aware.
Yeah.
Awareness is key. Most people aren't aware of their bodies or what's going on until it's too late, until we get an injury, right?
Mm-hmm.
Same thing with an athlete. An athlete has to be aware of, okay, I got to feel a little tension here. Now I need to do something about it. I'm imbalanced. I feel something. My left hamstring is more tight than the right. Interesting. Okay, so I need to fix that before I get an injury. So awareness is good. But what else was I going to say? No, there was something you said that I was going to react to.
I was just saying, what would you do if it was me? Like, how would you help me if I was doing hours and hours of speaking? How would you stop my voice just getting destroyed? Becoming more efficient, more. You've got great vibrato. I don't know if that's the right term, but I can just feel. You can almost feel your voice. It's magnetic. It almost vibrates from the throat down the microphone. You can hear that a mile away.
That's very kind of you to say that. That's not vibrato, but it's resonance. It's vibration. That's
Resonance.
right.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So the vocal cords are vibrating. And if I speak like this, they're still vibrating. Hey.
Have you ever thought about doing ASMR? You've probably been
No.
told, haven't you? I bet somebody said you could make a nice side hustle off that on YouTube.
No, but well, thank you. I don't know. Is that good?
I'm not saying for me.
Yeah. No, but I have all my trainings are online now, so people don't have to hire me to learn the stuff that I teach. So, but the fact that you feel effort is exactly that. That's what I was going to mention, that you feel you have to strain, you have to work hard.
Yeah.
And the fact that you're aware of it is good, but that you have to push, work hard is not good, because that then means that we're creating resistance, we're creating more tension. But we shouldn't be talking about you now. We should be talking about you out there who are watching. Your voice is better than most.
I was just trying to use myself as a case study, but let's say to all the people watching this, in order to strengthen their voice, so is it breath control? Is it relaxation?
No, it's not.
See,
No, it's
that's
not.
a common misperception then, because
Yes, it is a common
right?
misconception. Very common. Too
Okay,
common.
nice.
Like it's all about breathing. Yes, breathing is good.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Now, a common thing is then that we do the opposite when the chords aren't, when they are coming together but too harshly. So if I talk like this,
Yeah.
now it's extreme, right? And we hear this all the time on the YouTube videos, especially towards the end of the sentences. And therefore, it sounds like I'm not breathing, right? And I'm not. Everything is compressed. My breathing, chords are tight. It's like, nothing's coming out. I'm exaggerating, but even if there's a small tendency, it takes away your power. It takes away your ability to influence, takes away your ability to connect and bond. But people don't realize it, so they don't know. But once you get rid of that and your voice is more resonant and it doesn't have the squeakiness, it has a direct relationship to your income, frankly. And that's what you don't have. If you had that and you did your podcast, it wouldn't connect as much. The little breathiness, little huskiness, yes, we can work on that. But when we have that squeezed stuff, it takes away all, yes. But people don't know why. It's just something, right? But if you can't see the person and you hear two people's voices, one that's resonant and one that has the squeezy stuff that we can feel restriction, you're going to buy whatever product the resonant voice produces. And if it's for guys, a woman will be attracted to the resonant voice. That's just how it is.
So when it comes to the resonant voice and seduction, how would you frame that? How would you say that works when attracting women or other men? I don't know if it works on other men, does it? Because
it does, because in business situations, if you want to be authoritative, you want people to say yes to you, you want people to pay attention to you, you make a presentation, you're selling, you're negotiating, you want to have a leadership position, it has an absolute, it's directly related to how you're able to resonate with other people. And your voice is so powerful in that. Your body language is also very, very important, of course, but it actually goes hand in hand. So if I sit like this, then I probably talk like this, or the other way around. It's like, I hope I'm not being heard too much. Hello, everybody. Would you please pay attention to me? Or if I have too much of a breathy voice, then it's like, oh. But those are extremes, right? But it also might be that we have super nasal, we're high pitched, and there's something that we feel there's an energy in the room that there's something other people can't tell what it is, and you might be a great guy, and people love you for it. That's fine, that's great. But like I said, when the voice is more resonant, it actually goes hand in hand with how you resonate with other people. That resonance, that vibration, that energy goes hand in hand with your charisma. Has to do with openness. in the Swedish language, the word charisma is utstrålning, which means out and raise. And it's a good word actually, because charisma has to do with you being coming alive, being alive. It's the rays of you, the inner you that's coming alive, and now you become a personality that people becomes connected to. So if the voice is restricted, then that goes hand in hand with that. There's something going on here within you, and it could be habitual, or it could go hand in hand with your psychology, because our voice is very much tied to our psychology, our fears, the restrictions that we have, the past traumas, and so forth, right? Our beliefs of what we can or cannot do, feeling that I'm not important enough, feeling that I'm not significant, and feeling, right? All these insecurities that we have, that shows up in your voice. So when we develop your voice, it's not just about your voice being physically stronger and more resonant, but it's you becoming stronger. You become more powerful. You become more effortless. You are then expressing yourself with less effort. You're exhaling more. So this goes hand in hand with the resonance, and this has very much to do with seduction, with connection, with bonding, with attracting, with influencing.
So when somebody is nervous or they're worried about what, they don't feel important and they think the words I'm going to say aren't going to register, I'm not good socially. When their voice comes out and it doesn't sound like somebody like you, is there anything actually physically going on in here that's affecting that?
Yes, yes. So I mentioned the peak performance training that is very much part of my whole methodology. And again, you can learn all this stuff online because my
Yeah.
trainings are all online. So the peak performance has to do with being able to perform under pressure. Well, not just being able to, but becoming your best, being your best when it matters the most. How to come alive under those pressure situations, which is of course vital for an athlete and vital for a performer getting up on the stage. But your stage might be in an important meeting, in an interview. Maybe you're interviewing for a job. Maybe you're on a date. Hey, how about that? Right? So it's something that's important to you. And therefore the stakes become higher and we might experience more fear, nervousness. And my philosophy is all about embracing fear. That fear is actually good. But often we feel afraid of the fear. We feel there's something wrong with us because I get nervous. No, there's something wrong with me if I don't get nervous. So, having been on stage a lot in my life, the times when I'm not nervous becomes a bad performance. So, nervousness, and for athletes, for super athletes, that heightens our preparation,
Yeah.
heightens the importance, and therefore, but we want to then turn that into really um, great energy so that when we become free, that we start trusting that. That's, of course, training also, right? But therefore, we're in this situation, and therefore, we're now in a nervous situation. But now we turn outward, especially when it comes to communication, that we want to turn our focus on that person, to be genuinely curious, interested in that person, so it doesn't become about us. But you were asking them what happens physically. So when we are then in the stress mode, the sympathetic nervous system is triggered, then things happen to us. The heart rate goes up, we start sweating, um, the breathing becomes more shallow, and it affects the voice, and we start to tighten here. So this is then expression, right? Creativity, and that and so to have this free is makes all the difference. But it's not about not being afraid and not being nervous. It's by using it.
Okay. And I appreciate you've got online courses and stuff, and ideally you want people to get the information in that mannerism. But is there anything that you can kind of give us today to strengthen the voice? Any exercises that you did or that you coach people how to loosen this area up? Is there anything that you can give us that maybe is a
Well, one
sneak
thing,
peek?
yeah, well, one thing that you could do is to play around with the difference, like I was showing you. What's the difference between and ah, huh? what is that? And become curious. Ah, there's some muscle that I'm using. What is that? If I feel my tongue is moving, for example, oh, then you want to ask yourself, what does the tongue have to do with it? Ideally, nothing, but that's easier said than done. So you might notice that the tongue moves. So can you do it without the tongue moving, for example? Ah, can you do it without the larynx? Uh, this is the voice box here, the Adam's apple, which is really the thyroid cartilage, but that's the front part of the voice box. So if you just put a finger on there, and let's see if we can do that without it moving at all. Ah, and if it moves, it's probably the root, the back of the tongue that starts moving also. So if I do ah, ah, that's a lot of movement, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Or if the jaw has to move. Ah, wow. So then we can start recognizing, can start isolating that. And that is actually a super, super good exercise to go back and forth between that. And then it can be all kinds of in-betweens, right? So if I do, that's 100% breathy, no vibration whatsoever. If I do a little bit, now it's a little bit vibrating, right?
Yeah, you can
but
hear
not
it.
a whole. Yes. So they come together a little bit, but not so much. But there was more than no coming together whatsoever. There's no vibration. A little bit. More. Too much. Because now I felt that it's not just that the chords are coming together, but now it's like, everything else is going here.
It sounded forced. It sounded a little bit more tense around the neck. You can
Right.
hear it.
And guys, this is a huge trap because I know we want resonant, maybe deep voices. First of all, it's not about how deep your voice is. We're all different. You don't have to have the deepest voice, but we still want it to be free, strong, resonant, healthy. And so therefore you feel confident about it, releasing it. But when you do that, then you don't have to do the lowest note. Just a But because a lot of guys want deeper voices, the tendency then is that they start doing and they might have even heard that you're supposed to yawn. No, please. That's very old school. Very old school among singers also. A lot of singing coaches still teach it. Yeah. That creates a lot of tension, a lot of pressure. You don't want that in your speaking voice. But a lot of guys fall into that trap. Okay. I'm very authoritative now.
Yeah.
Yes. But it's actually not that. You hear that? It's way deeper. Hey.
It doesn't seem natural. It seems like it could cut out at any moment, whereas your one, it sounds like a storybook reading voice that can just continue.
Thank you. Storybook reading voice. Can I use that quote?
Sure. I don't know if my name carries much cachet though. Especially in the singing world.
Yeah. And I'm exaggerating so you hear it clearly, but for most people, they don't have these exaggerations like I'm illustrating them, but there's a little tendency towards it. So, and even a little slight change, a little more freedom in your voice makes a big difference.
So when when a man has a strong, deep voice, is it all an illusion? Or is it coming from something they've done? Or is it just naturally testosterone and longer vocal cords, right?
No, because again,
so many misconceptions.
Yeah, there's a lot of misconceptions. I've trained, so my voice is deeper, but if you hear me sing, I can also sing really high stuff. So it's not that it's one or the other, it's about having a flexible voice. But yes, we're all different. So again, having the deepest voice is that's not really the goal, but it can be deeper than it is, meaning more resonant. It's not necessarily lower, right? I don't have to speak down here. I can't. By the way, when I speak like that, I can't get volume. So
Yes, I
therefore,
find that,
so
yeah.
therefore, so therefore, people with you do radio commercials, stuff like that, voiceovers, they actually don't speak loud. The storybook voices. Once upon a time, there was right. It's actually quite soft, but it's vibrating. It's not breathy. But if I'm going to call out, my pitch has to go up. Hey, hello. Maybe I'm cutting out when I do that with this
No, it sounds
microphone, but
good. Sounds fine.
my pitch has to go up. But it's irresonant. If I do, hey, come on, yeah, can you hear me? There's a lot of strain. It's like we don't pay attention to you. Hey, hey, how are you? Doing great. I've tested this, by the way. I've tested this on women also.
Yeah, it's something
With the
that
guys,
draws
with
you in. I don't know what it is, but it's such a subtle difference. But straight away when you're doing that, I just picture a guy with a lot more. Even though I can see you here, I'm picturing a guy in that scenario yelling out to somebody with a lot more authoritativeness.
Yes. And the authoritativeness also becomes because there's less effort, right? When we sense effort as human beings, we sense, we become resistance. It's like, oh, someone's yelling at me, right? I put up a shield now because there's a defense, right? Is that sympathetic nervous system makes that, okay, I'm being threatened somehow. So it's interesting. So I've been in environments where it's kind of noisy, and we sit a little bit further away, and if I'm with some guys, and then if we call out, just as an experiment, the sitting group of women over there, and then it's like, hello, how are you? Nobody pays attention. And then if I do, hi, you in the blonde hair there, and then they all turn around. And
That's like a
it's not necessarily,
superpower.
yes, in a sense. It's not that it's necessarily louder, but there's something about it that there's a resonance, but there's a calm about it, right? And suddenly you get the attention. And again, this works with guys and guys also, like in business situations. Absolutely, people pay attention to you. Oh, okay, we better listen to what this guy has to say.
Yeah, I remember when I used to do telesales a long time ago. They said that it was 93% tonality. It's not necessarily what you're saying, it's how you're saying it. And
Right.
one thing that kept popping up was pacing and emphasis and stuff like
Yes.
that. Is that things that you encourage?
Yeah, but the tendency is that it can become artificial if we start thinking about that.
That's
So
true.
so pacing, we would like that to come out of the organic purpose of why you say what you say, and the word tonality also implies melody, and rhythm, and well, pacing has to do with rhythm. So, like I was demonstrating here, it's like, hey, oh yeah, right. That's actually a big range of the voice. So we can play around with the melody. Oh yeah, that's amazing. Right now, that's pretty high pitch, right? That's amazing. Yeah, that's amazing. I'm so glad you're here. You are wonderful. And I'm so. If we talk about the same pitch, that becomes monotone. That's not going to do very well, right? So therefore, we have to have a flexible voice, and we want to be able to use it. Yes, of course. That's like super high, really, but you don't think of it if it just comes in and say, yeah, of course, right?
Yeah.
So it's actually a big range. So so whether in a live situation or on camera or on the phone, the same thing. Um, and then the pacing, we'd rather have that. In my philosophy is that we have that come out of your level of empathy and how you can actually relate to another person, and it becomes an organic thing. If we tend to think about it, then we lose the connection.
I'm getting the idea from you. It's definitely a head game, and then resonance. I think it's those two things. Would I be right in assuming that?
Yes, and I like to think of resonance as our whole being in that sense. That the voice is just how it manifests in sound, but it has to do with the resonance of you. How do you resonate with other people? How can you therefore connect, bond, become charismatic, influential, attractive, and it goes hand in hand.
That makes sense. And do you have a morning routine or a nightly routine that you do in order to keep your voice at the level that it's at?
So, I mean, part of the whole package is also overall health. So I'm very into that. Breathing. I do morning breathing exercises actually, and I do some movement before I use my voice. I do some vocal warm ups before I speak, before I do this today. And a warm up, people ask me, what's a warm up? Well, a warm up is only to get you to do what it is that you want to do, and it depends on your voice. So we actually really don't learn warm ups first. We actually learn the training and how to isolate the muscle and stuff like that, and then you will know how to warm up because then you just do something that makes that happen, depending on your weakness, your strength. Same thing for an athlete, right? If they feel that if they have the body awareness and the skill of what to do with their bodies, then okay, I have a tight hamstring today, then I'm going to warm up differently compared to if I have a tight shoulder, right? So it depends. Or my back is like, oh, my back is stiff, so then I will do something else. So yes, drink a lot of water, health, good nutrition, don't smoke. Part of the marijuana that you were mentioning, why it's so bad for the voice is also because of the heat. So you really don't want to inhale that. That really messes with your vocal cords.
Okay, sure. And one question I've got personally is
Can I
when.
just add one
Yeah, yeah,
more
go ahead.
thing,
Yeah,
by the
yeah.
way, just in case people have heard this? Because the thing with the smoking and stuff like that, people think that oh, it gives me a deep voice.
Yeah.
So if you believe that, please let go of that nonsense. The reason it gives you a deep voice is because the vocal cords become swollen, and that's not good. That's inflexible depth, but it's not. You can't project with it. You can't be the full you.
Okay. Yeah, that's another misconception, isn't it? That the more that you drink and smoke, the more you'll have that raspy voice that sounds like that, almost like a Jason
Right.
Statham type of voice. Why is
Yeah.
it somebody like Jason Statham's voice gets really praised? A lot of people say he's got a fantastic voice, whereas it somewhat goes against everything that you've said, although is his just natural?
Well, I wouldn't say naturally, something that's been developed
Yeah.
over the years by how you use a voice, right? And for some people have interesting, weird voices, and we think that's cool, and that's fine. So be it. My job as a voice coach then is not to change that person, by the way. My job as a voice coach is to be able to enable that person to do what it is that they do so that they can do it night after night, day after day, and have a healthy voice and still have the sound. So, for example, singers have developed a certain sound and they don't want to take voice lessons because they're afraid that it's going to change their style, change their sound. And that's not going to, and I agree with them. They are resistant to taking voice lessons for a good reason because some of
Yeah.
the traditional voice lesson is about that. No, you're doing it incorrectly. You have to change. You have to do this and start sounding like an opera singer or something like that. No, I didn't want. I want to have a distorted rock voice. So that's understandable. So now these days we know more about the voice it doesn't have to do with that specific style of opera, which is just one style, which is not natural. And I'm not saying anything negative about that. It's a beautiful style. But the key is to be able to use the voice the way you've used it. So we all have, and that's so the amazing thing with a voice that we can use it in many different ways. We all sound different. People have been accustomed to using the voice in a certain way, and it's become their style. That's cool. Now, is it something that's sustainable? Can you do it, or are you having a problem from it? Then we need to fix that.
So if one of my guys is watching this right now and everybody's working at home right now, everybody's doing Zoom meetings. If they've got an important speech or a meeting that they're about to do, or, when they go back to work, they have to do a speech in front of everybody or maybe go on a date with a woman, what sort of things would you tell them to do maybe an hour leading up to that speech? Or let's say they're nervous and they're walking up to do the speech or something. What can they do in those moments to just kind of let that nervousness go and project that voice?
Um,
Or is it too late
can
at
I,
that point?
well, There are always things that you could do, but I'm not in favor of, the quick fix mentality either.
Yeah, that's the
If
problem.
that it is a problem for a lot of people that then shows up in so many areas of life, right? Oh, I want to make a lot of money by Friday, and you haven't. Okay,
My
great.
favorite is I'm going to get into shape for summer, and people start in January, which everyone says is a New Year's resolution. I've always said start in September. I don't know why people don't
Okay,
start in September. As soon as that summer
right,
finishes,
right.
give yourself an extra 4.5, 5 months, because 3 or 4
Yeah,
months leading up to summer just isn't enough from January.
yeah, and that's overall the mindset, how we want to think about our lives. We want to be able to perform at high levels and be more successful. And if you're an entrepreneur, you want to be able to be that creative person who takes charge, and you're creating your lifestyle, you're creating your income, you're creating your opportunities. And I mean, for me, that's a beautiful thing. And then we just are more responsible in that way. I think that's fun. And then there are always things that we can do to prepare for any situation that we're heading into.
So if somebody was going to start doing your training, buy your courses, etc., how long do you think it would take to start seeing or hearing, should I say, proper results where they're starting to sound more like somebody like you, or they're displaying more resonance in their voice?
Well, how long is it going to take until they feel a significant difference? 40 minutes.
Oh, wow.
Uh, but you're not going to ever think that you're going to sound like me or someone else. It's all about sounding like you.
Okay, yeah.
So, yes, but a freer, more empowered, better you. So yes, after the first session, 40 minutes, most people say like, "Wow, I've never knew this about my voice. I've never felt as free." And that's with the voice you already have today, right? So then when you go and practice that a little bit each day, muscles start responding differently. You start discovering new things. So obviously, we don't build strength in the muscle on one day, right? When you're working out, you don't get stronger. You actually get weaker if you work out. It's from the rest that
Yeah.
makes you stronger, right?
Mm-hmm.
So in this case, it's not about exhausting your muscles in that sense, but the sense of freedom and the resonance, how to, for example, get more power with less effort, immediately 40 minutes. And that's with the strength that you already have today. And then, of course, it becomes even more fun when the strength develops after a few weeks, and you realize that the voice, the muscles respond differently than they did on day one because you've been doing stuff. And you start recognizing how this applies to real situations then in speech, or maybe you sing, and then we build from there. But it's designed that you're going to experience results right away.
Last two questions for me, because I don't want to take up too much of your time. But is that the kind of general idea here? Is that people can see a bicep, so they go in the gym and they train their bicep, or they see a chest and they train the chest, or for example, people can't see their legs as often because they're wearing jeans or trousers, and when you
Mm-hmm.
take your t-shirt off in the summer, your body's on show, so they train legs less. Is it an amplified effect of that with your voice, where you're barely ever seeing, well, you're never seeing your voice, so you're just thinking, nobody actually inherently has a bad voice, it's just nobody ever trains it?
That's right.
Okay.
Yes. And a little bit of a difference then, perhaps, compared to other athletic endeavors, is that it's very tied to psychology.
Mm.
So, a lot of people feel that don't feel good about their voice. They don't feel good in expressing themselves in certain situations in front of certain people. It's a lot of self-judgment, which is understandable. So that's also why it becomes so empowering when we engage in this stuff, because then it's not just that the muscles respond and the voice becomes freer, but like we talked about before, but you start recognizing the fears and the self-consciousness that you've been holding on to, and then that becomes released too, and then now you start blossoming in a different way. So it becomes a psychological thing without us having to talk about the psychology. It's not like we're it just becomes, you become freer.
The natural you, yeah.
Yeah.
And my final question is, I was obviously told you that I do the body language analysis videos, and you saw a few on the channel. Would you ever be interested in doing a collaboration where a lot of people tell me to do Tyler Durden body language analysis, who's Brad Pitt from Fight Club, and I've watched a bunch of clips, and his body language isn't actually that great. I've noticed that a lot of what he does comes from his voice. Would you ever be interested in maybe we bring a clip up on screen and me and you break it down and we talk about maybe what he's doing that's correct? Because, or you pick an actor yourself who you think is fantastic at this. Because number one, I think it would help a lot of people. Number two, I know for a fact from my own views, it would get hundreds of thousands of views if we're both on it together. And then I think a lot of people would be channeled back to what you do. And I think that's important because people need to hear this, because everything that I've thrown at you today is a misconception. So I assume if that's what I thought, that's what most people thought. So I think more people need to hear what you're saying.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I think we should throw that question then to your audience. Would they like that to happen?
They would like, yeah.
If enough people say yes, we'll do it.
There'll be too many. I get asked to do the Tyler Durden one every single day, and I keep looking at clips, and I'm like, there's no inherent body language. It's all tonality, and I think like I can do that to some extent, but now evidently after speaking to you, I'm like, I'm not an expert in tonality. You are. I can say about the pacing and what's being said in a body language sense, but that's why I wanted to get you on before I did it, because I just know that you're the expert in this area.
Well, let's do that. Send out, or wherever you're publishing this. Is this going to go on YouTube?
This will go out a few places. But what I'll do is I'll find a couple of clips. I'll send them over to you, and you see.
And if so, they can put in the comments there. Who are you interested in? What would you like to learn?
Yeah,
it has to be some. I think it's. I mean, it should be something so it's applicable to people. So you can actually not. So it's more than interesting, but actually something that you can.
Achievable.
That's usable.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Not like a unique voice that nobody can match. Yeah. Like Barry White. Let's do a break. Do you know what I mean? It just doesn't really work, would it?
Yeah, but there you have an example, Barry White, that he doesn't sing loud, right? He just uses that depth, and he does it soft, and but it's resonant. It's not breathy.
Was he born with that, or is that something that he developed, or perhaps both?
Yeah, it's both. That's both. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely sort of part of his natural how he is, but there are a lot of people who also have deep voices who can't do it the way that he does.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what, honestly, I could talk about this stuff for hours. I love this sort of thing. When I found something called Orthotropics, the way that your genetics don't actually decide the way that you look, it's very much to do with kind of neck exercises, facial exercises, and oral posture, the way your tongue can sit on the maxilla, drive it forward. There's like a whole science to that sort of thing. And then I think another one that's exactly like that is your voice. People say you're born with this voice and it will never change. Then I meet you and you're saying the same sort of things, and I just think there's a whole world out there of isolated components that we could all be working on, but instead we'd rather watch TV or something. It's crazy.
Absolutely, and every guy knows that it changes dramatically in your teens. So there.
Yeah.
Massively. And that can freak us out, and that's like, whoa. And then the voice starts cracking and stuff like that, and then after puberty we don't have much of range. So we can't go high. So actually later on we can develop more height also. So yeah, so obviously the voice changes dramatically then, and some when it comes to the world of singing, some kids who are good as kids don't have the same voices later on, and that's So yes, our voices were quite different when we were born.
It takes training to develop them. I think that's the message we should leave people with, because like we said about the analogy earlier, the legs and the upper body, I just think the voice is so disregarded. I think face and voice, I think anything that we don't really acquaint with, you can improve it. And I think just letting people know that you can improve these things is step one for them to go out and look for this information and find people like yourself and start doing this training. There is, as much as people might say it's just a voice, it's not just a voice. A voice will change your life. I've seen it happen.
Yes.
I've seen people with fantastic voices. They're always the CEO. They've always got a beautiful woman. People listen to what they say, and they don't really have to speak loudly. It's incredible to watch.
Very much true.
It's magnetic. But yeah, we'll end it there. Like I said, I always feel rude ending the podcast because I really could speak for hours, but I think you've got to kind of keep them bite-sized so that, number one, I don't waste too much of your time, and number two, I can get you back again so we have
There
more
you
to
go.
speak about it and get more views.
Awesome. Well, thank you. It's been a pleasure. Hope people who have watched this, you've gotten something out of this.
They really will.
Please leave a comment. Please go to my website, then perbristow.com. I don't know if you're going to post that somewhere. Connect with me on social media and stuff like that.
Absolutely. Is there anywhere else that people can find you, or have you got any courses that people could take? I'm happy for you.
So the easiest thing is probably to go to perbristow.com. So perbristow.com, because from that you'll see the listing of the trainings I have and my social media and stuff. So that's probably a good place to go. I got to do more on YouTube now. You remind me. So
Honestly,
I haven't done much on YouTube at all.
You really should, because honestly, the male audience would love what you're doing. You've just got to control the audience because it can get toxic sometimes. There's like red pill, black pill. Me and a guy were speaking about it yesterday, where people will say, if you don't have a good voice to start with, you're finished. There's no way to train it. So you've just got to kind of fight through all of that and just put your message out there and see what happens. Yeah.
Well, think of if you make that statement in regards to sports, then people will say, yeah, but it's true because not everyone can become a world champion. Well, we're not talking about becoming a world champion. We're saying, can everyone improve? Yeah. The answer is absolutely yes. Are we all different? Absolutely yes. The difference, though, between the voice here and what we're talking about in sports is that it's not measurable in that sense. So you can be unique. You can be the unique you. And someone say, well, he doesn't have as great voice as this one. Well, what's great? How do you measure that? If you can become freer, more charismatic, like we said, more influential, you'll have greater success. That's just how it is.
Do you know the irony of that as well? If you said to everybody, with training, you can increase your height by 1 inch. Every man on planet Earth would try and do that training and increase their height by 1 inch. But if you said you can improve your voice by one simple, I don't know what the measurement would be, but let's say out of 10, you can go from a 5 to a 6 in your voice. People wouldn't see that as big as positive as going from, let's say, 5'11" to 6 foot, which is weird. You know, those little changes are massive, but people don't see it that way.
Yes. 5'11" to 6 isn't going to do anything for you in your career.
No, I don't think
but a freer voice will. So there, that's my that's my promotion right there of the beauty.
Go and buy the course.
On the voice. Yeah. And I'm just not saying that. Yes, there's a lot of research when it comes to the voice and how powerful it is when people research it. But I know, and not only from my own life, but also from, I've coached thousands and thousands of people. So it's I'm not just making stuff up. I think people realize it when I talk
once
about
they
it
research you, they'll find out as well that you're the real deal. I believe in this stuff massively. I've seen what a voice can do in a telesales environment, or from the CEO, the way that somebody with even a posh accent and a resonant voice can take over an entire room. So I've seen that first person, and it's something that I'm working on myself. So if people are following me, then they should definitely follow what you're doing. But yeah, thanks, Per. Honestly, thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate your time. You're a great guy, and I think we've definitely learned loads from this. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate it. I'll speak to you soon. Thank you.
Yes.
See ya. Goodbye.